So we ran out of room on the iPad.
That's what happens if we save old shows. They're 45-minute long videos.
And when children get the iPad and start taking a million pictures.
I think it's time to clean out the picture folder.
So what were you talking about again?
We had one butterfly make a cocoon on a branch and one on a piece of parsley. And the one on the branch was brown and the one on the parsley was bright green. You couldn't even tell they were from the same species of butterfly.
Yeah.
But when they hatched, they were pretty much identical. The butterflies looked the same.
And we suspect that the butterfly that we released laid more eggs on our dill. So we might have a second generation already growing up.
Because our first butterfly that we hatched, Daniel was so enthusiastic about it, he kept tapping the tent that it was in and kept knocking it over, and it damaged the swallowtail part of its tail. So for the next several days,
marked.
We kept seeing our butterfly in our yard. The girls kept saying, "Oh, I saw our butterfly on the flowers," and then one day it was laying eggs on our dill, so it was a girl.
So we're doing our part to aid the swallowtail butterfly population, which I don't think is in having a lot of trouble.
Wow. I wouldn't know. We're raising hundreds of them, apparently.
18 is not hundreds.
It feels like it.
It feels like a lot.
By the time I get through feeding them all, it's a lot of work.
18 does feel like a lot. We have all of the mason jars. You know, it's funny. I was looking for a mason jar, and I wondered what happened to them all. They're all full of butterflies right now.
You can only keep about 2 to a mason jar. They start off, you can put a whole bunch in there, but by the time they get big, you really can only keep 2 in there.
And we get lots and lots of droppings. Big jars full of droppings.
I've been putting water in the droppings and swishing it around and watering all the herb garden with it.
Hey, it's free fertilizer. Why not?
I suspect it's good fertilizer because it's coming from the parsley, so...
We should probably put it on our tomatoes that are struggling.
I'm not sure there's enough there to do anything for the tomatoes. That's why I've been putting it on the herbs, because they're smaller. Anyway.
So what else happened
enough gardening
in the past couple weeks? The new dishwasher
all kinds
came.
Of stuff.
The new dishwasher came.
Yes.
So the story on the dishwasher. Did we ever talk about the dishwasher before?
I think we mentioned that it was out.
So the dishwasher broke. We spent a whole bunch of money trying to repair it. The repair did not go very well because apparently when you want someone to work on your dishwasher, you can't do it yourself. You got to let them do everything, because if you do something yourself, mess it up, then they can't be held liable.
We had one little washer nut thing that had to be put on, and Ben, instead of calling the guy back, put it on.
But I must not have adjusted the heating element correctly, because when we ran the dishwasher, well, first it leaked, but then we fixed that. We ran the dishwasher and we started smelling melting plastic. And we opened up the dishwasher and it melted.
It was melting a bit of the bottom, so we adjusted it for that. But the ultimate problem that had probably burned out the heating element in the first place was a wire that had shorted out at the bottom. And that's the one that I turned it off right away because I smelled electrical. And then when you looked in the bottom, it was like blackened all around it.
So there's an electrical short, some kind of problem.
But we couldn't call the repairman back without starting all over with paying him his initial visit again from the beginning, because once you touch the dishwasher, they won't repair it anymore.
And he was not an inexpensive appliance repairman. Anyway, just basically we paid for another dishwasher, having him try to repair our dishwasher. So I finally said enough, that we're going to have to get rid of this dishwasher. It's no good anymore. So I started doing some research on finding a replacement. And I looked at cheap ones and I looked at expensive ones, and I didn't want a cheap one. I wanted an expensive one. But we couldn't really afford one at that price point. So I did my diligent research and I managed to find an unaffordable one for an affordable price, which I was very happy about.
I was pretty impressed. I had no idea what we were getting. Ben did this whole job on his own. He spent an entire afternoon searching out dishwashers. It was a whole Sunday you spent on it. But, the choice was we could have gone around from appliance store to appliance store, and you wouldn't have been able to read reviews. We would have had to dicker kind of with the salesman on it.
Yep. Basically, I found a dishwasher that was about $100 less than what it was at Lowe's, and free shipping. Just ship it to our house, no cost. And also, by buying online, you don't pay sales tax. And that was kind of the clincher. We
got it. What was it? Between 50 and 60% off?
It was heavily discounted.
By the time...
And new. I mean, it was
brand new.
It wasn't a refurb or anything like that.
So I had no idea what we were getting.
It did take a while for it to come, though.
It did. It took 3 weeks? 4 weeks?
It seemed to take forever. Because we went without a dishwasher the whole time, and we're hand washing all the dishes.
Well, and we'd been hand washing them for a couple months already.
Yeah.
We know a lot of people who don't have dishwashers, and they hand wash the dishes, and we can do that, and we've done it many times before.
But a family of 6.
At this point,
everyone has plates. Everyone has silverware.
And even cutting back on, like, kids cannot use 25 cups. They have 1 cup. It seems like every meal generates such a pile of dishes right now and right now our kids can't really help do them that much.
Not really.
So it was taking me, I would say, 2 to 3 hours a day, all told, to keep up with keeping the kitchen clean.
And finally I said, enough. We got to get a dishwasher.
It is just chewing up a tremendous amount of our time.
So fast forward to when the dishwasher arrived. And I know me. If a project shows up, it's tempting to set the project aside and just kind of, I'll do it then. I'll do it then. This project, I said, I got to do it now. Do not delay.
So you hooked it up right away?
Yeah. So
the day after it came.
So we got the old dishwasher out of the house. Actually, at the curb, we watched it crunch in the trash men picked it up.
I was happy we didn't leave that sitting around either. We really dispatched it pretty quick.
Right. I salvaged a few parts. I'm hoping to sell them sometime.
The heating element.
Heating element's new.
That washer
the bolt
we paid
washer.
$14 for.
It's ridiculous. All the money we spent on that. But anyway, so whatever money we saved on this dishwasher, we had already spent on the previous dishwasher repairing it.
I don't think we got to $600.
Well, maybe. I don't know. Well, the point is I got this new dishwasher installed right away. I've never installed the dishwasher in my life, but I managed to follow the instructions, get everything all set up, and we turn it on and it works. Everything seems fine, but we notice one serious problem. Our old dishwasher was connected to the cold water, and we're pretty sure that this new dishwasher is not designed to work with cold water.
I think the way the dishwasher works is it does fill with hot water, but then it heats it further. So it has a temperature gauge in there, and then it uses the heating element to heat the water to the correct temperature to wash the dishes. So if you fill it with cold water, when it was meant to be filled with hot water, you're causing the heating element in the dishwasher to work way, 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 way harder than it was designed to. You've got a pretty good chance of burning out your dishwasher a lot earlier than it was really planned to work.
Yeah. Also, our dishwasher took an extremely long time.
I kind of wonder if our old dishwasher wasn't supposed to be hooked up to cold water.
It probably was supposed to be hooked up to hot.
Mm-hmm.
So that posed a pretty serious problem because now we need to do some plumbing.
And we are not experienced plumbers.
I have no experience in plumbing at all. So I looked underneath the cabinet and I see this really nice PEX plumbing. And like, this doesn't look that hard. You got these little bands here, and you got the little plastic here, this connected here. It's like, okay, no problem. So I start researching how you work with PEX plumbing. I'm thinking, can I use a...
YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I figured, what tools do I need? So I found out that there was tools I need to work with PEX plumbing.
Yeah, you can't just use a channel locks.
Right. So we went over to Lowe's. That's not that far from our house, and we started looking at PEX plumbing equipment or tools. And we started doing the math on it, and it was over $100 worth of equipment from Lowe's to do PEX piping.
It was $80 for the crimper that we needed to crimp the bands in place.
$20 for the cutter.
$20 to get the cutter to cut the bands off of the old valve. Because what ultimately needed to happen was we had to switch the valve that split from the sink to the dishwasher. We had to switch it from the cold water to the hot water. Right.
So yeah, the cold water had a junction that went off to the dishwasher. And all I wanted to do was move that junction over to the hot, and then take that the valve, put it over under the cold. So it was just straight cold to the sink, and hot to the sink plus that.
Right, it had to be diverted to the dishwasher.
So I had to remove and I had to add crimps. And
we added it up over.
But my instinct was, that's too expensive. I can't imagine that is really what you need to pay to work with PEX. So good old Google, good old Amazon. I hopped on Amazon, and the very first thing I see is this 5-star review on this crimping tool, and of course it's $30.
It was a whole kit, wasn't it?
And of course it comes with the cutter, it comes with a crimper, it comes with a remover, it comes with a bunch of the rings, various sizes.
There was two different sizes that we potentially needed.
Yeah. So literally,
$35.
it would have been $100 to get to get the rings, to get the cutter, to get the crimper, to get the whole thing.
And we have Amazon Prime, so it was free 2-day shipping.
Yeah, free 2-day shipping. So all you had to do was wait 2 days.
So if we had needed it that night, we would have had to spend $100. But because we could wait for 2 days, we waited this long already.
And with we used our Amazon card, got 5% back too. So anyway, all that to say that I did my first plumbing job. So this is the crimping tool that I got from Amazon, and this thing is fun.
It's gear driven.
It's gear driven. I don't know how well you can see this, but that's a crimping tool there, and you see it kind of comes together.
Just to the right size to crimp the
to
band
the perfect
shut.
size. You see it doesn't close all the way. So really cool tool. I had a really fun time working with it.
That's how you know that PEX piping is the way to go instead of copper.
Oh, yeah.
When a guy does his first plumbing job, he doesn't get drenched with water. He did not take 3 trips to the hardware store. He did not burn his hand learning how to solder. And he comes out of it saying, boy, that was fun. My dad hated plumbing.
And Lauren did an absolutely amazing thing for me. She sat right about where we're sitting right here while I worked on it, gave me my space, and just gave me time, and I got it done.
I did?
You did. Until the very end. At the very end, you guys came over for snack and various things.
Yeah, and the kids started getting in your way, and I had to shoo them out and try to make sure they stayed over by the
Well, right at the
table.
very end, we were concerned about one of the crimps. It looked like it had slid down and didn't look like it was secure.
I'm really happy you fixed that.
So we decided now is the time to fix it. We don't want to...
Everything's pulled out from under the sink.
Yeah, we don't want a surprise in the middle of the night.
Well, the backstory to that is my dad did a similar job one time in the bathroom and using copper, and something happened to one of the joins on one of the valves, and in the middle of the night he and my mom woke up because it sounded like Niagara Falls in the bathroom because there's pressure
terrible.
on those pipes.
Yeah.
And when it let loose, there was just water flying everywhere under the sink.
Imagine.
And so my dad's racing down the stairs at 3 o'clock in the morning to shut off the water. The water's pouring down through the bathroom floor into the basement. So I looked under the sink and he'd done this beautiful job, and yet the hot water valve, the crimp, instead of it, there's like a 1/4 inch of space when you do PEX. You want the crimp to be down about a 1/4 inch from the top of where the pipe joins.
Yeah.
And it
just slid down?
It had slid somehow, and the pipe was below the level of the crimp, so you couldn't tell how much of the crimp
So
was
it just
actually holding.
popped off, right?
Well, no. What happened with my dad had to do with the soldering job.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
There was no PEX in that sink. But what I looked at in the sink, I said, Ben, it looks beautiful, and there's this one ring, and I have this concern that we're going to wake up in the middle of the night and hear.
Yeah. So we took care of it.
So Ben very cheerfully cut apart the band that he'd already put together, and he slid it back. And first, he had turned the water off.
This is the coolest tool ever. Look at that thing. This thing is sharp.
Yeah, you put the PEX plastic in there, and it goes blink.
And it cuts the PEX piping so easily. Like, it's effortless. It's just amazing. When I did it for the first time, I thought that, like, what happened? Did I do this right? It's like, yeah, there's like a little piece of PEX.
And by the way, if my mom's watching this, I could have completely messed up the story of what exactly happened to the copper pipe, because I don't really remember anymore.
I certainly don't remember.
I just remember that particular plumbing job. Dad had all kinds of problems with it. At one point, there was a pipe flying, or there was a flexible pipe flying around under the cabinet while he was wedged in it, drenching him with hot water.
Well, I remember my first, I guess you can call plumbing job, was installing the garbage disposal.
Oh yeah, you did do that last year.
Removing the old garbage disposal, putting the new one in, and
you did great with that too.
that was a challenge too. So most of my plumbing has been underneath the sink.
That's our most used plumbing.
We use it all the time.
We may have to eventually tackle the bathroom.
Yeah, well, I got the tools now.
That toilet that won't work.
Yeah, we have a bathroom that's kind of out of commission right now.
It's from 1960, and it has never been updated, and everything in it is coming apart.
Yeah, the whole bathroom needs a remodel, but that's not high on our list. I think carpet in our bedrooms on higher on the list.
I'd like to get the closet, and I'd really like to get that in before the baby's born, but we'll see.
Our bedroom's kind of unfinished.
Kinda.
It doesn't have carpet. I mean, it's got rugs.
It doesn't have a closet.
It doesn't have a closet.
It's got a space where the closet should be. There's no shelves in it, nothing to hang on. I mean,
it has a beautiful bathroom attached to it, though.
And
Fully
functional.
functional.
We've gotten that working.
Except that we still need casing around the door on the inside. But besides that, it's a fully functional bathroom.
You know, the trouble is we're learning how to do all this stuff, and people put our house together for us knew way more than we did, and they got it mostly there.
Well, talk about catching up. I just did my first plumbing job, and we're how many years into our marriage? 6 years?
Almost
7
8.
years? 8 years into our
It's
marriage?
going
Oh,
to be
wow.
8 years.
This November, 8 years. And my first plumbing job.
Well, I don't want to say I'm proud of you because that sounds, like I said, it sounds condescending. But
I'll take it.
you really did a wonderful job. I
Thank
was
you.
really, really pleased with you.
Thank you.
I was pleased with your attitude, meaning you were cheerful about it. It was something you've never done before, and you picked it up and you did it. And you did a great job. And we've got a dishwasher that runs great.
It was very satisfying that first night when we turned the dishwasher on, and it was so quiet.
We still have to put the front on it.
It's just so quiet. And we don't even have the insulation on it, and it's still quiet. I think it's running right now, isn't it?
No, it's done.
Okay. It's just, you can barely tell it's on.
Yeah, the hum is from Daniel sleeping with the noisemaker on so he doesn't wake up.
So we find that to be an amazing thing. So we have maybe about 2 or 3 minutes left. We want to talk about the Torah portion quickly before we lose our audience. They fall asleep.
They might have already fallen asleep by now.
Trivia questions at the end to see if they made it to the end. Like
What kind of piping do we have under our sink?
question 1, what type of piping are we using? Question 2.
Sure, you want to talk about the Torah portion? Our bet that I lost today because I grew up listening to the Living Bible?
So the Torah portion was so long that last night I read half of it and the other half I read today because my audience was falling asleep.
Well, our kids got a cold, and yesterday was their roughest day.
I don't know if you could tell, but Lauren and I both kind of have stuffy noses and colds, so
It's not that bad.
it's not terrible, but it's not very fun.
Abby was pretty sick yesterday.
But the Torah portion, the second part of the Torah portion that we read today, we had a little bit of I had a misunderstanding that got clarified today. So it talks about the 12 tribes of Israel, and we know that Joseph is actually 2 tribes, both Ephraim, or some say Ephraim, but Ephraim and Manasseh. But every time it mentions, actually in this Torah portion, the first time it mentions Manasseh, Moses calls Manasseh the half tribe of Manasseh. And in my mind, I thought, oh, well, that makes sense. He's half Egyptian. So it's a half tribe of Manasseh.
To me, that's weird. I never even considered the Egyptian thing.
Or
It was
perhaps
just half of Joseph.
Or perhaps Joseph has an allotment, and half of that went to Manasseh, and half of that went to Ephraim.
Right, the inheritance is split between the 2 boys.
But either way, those 2 boys should both be halves. You should have a half tribe of Ephraim and a half tribe of Manasseh. Well, so I'm reading through, and it dawned on me. I looked at a map, and it's like, wait a minute. Half of Manasseh's in the Promised Land, half of Manasseh's on the other side of the Jordan. That's the 2 halves. And Lauren said, no, it talks about the half tribe of Ephraim also. And I go, what?
Because in my mind, I'm hearing the Living Bible that I grew up listening to on tape, and multiple times it says the half tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh.
Yeah, so that makes sense. The half tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. Except...
This is how I remember the Bible. I hear the tape in my head.
Right. So she has basically the whole audio version of the Bible kind of in her head somehow. Just over the years actually our girls are probably like that too.
Unfortunately, there's a few problems with it.
Well-
so Ben's like, no, Manasseh is called a half tribe because half of it's on one side of the Jordan and half of it's on the other. And I'm like, no.
Now to be fair, I just realized that myself just now.
Well, you were reading what you'd heard, and I'm like, no. The Bible says over and over the half tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh.
But one of the nagging things in the back of my mind that's been bothering me for years is why does it never refer to Ephraim as a half tribe, only Manasseh as a half tribe?
And I'm like, of course it refers to Ephraim as a half tribe.
So the Living Bible, which is the audio version, actually does say the half tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh. We actually looked it up. And we're shocked, like, oh, there it is, the half tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh.
But it was the only version.
It's the wrong translation. It is the tribe of Ephraim and the half tribe of Manasseh. So only Manasseh is referred to as a half tribe.
And when the allotments of the land are assigned, on one side of the Jordan, before they actually entered into the Promised Land, you have Reuben and Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh. And then on the other side of the Jordan, as is mentioned both by Moses and later by Joshua, there's allotments for 9.5 tribes
The half being
But Levi
Manasseh.
is not assigned any land.
Right.
So if Levi had been assigned land, it would make sense that
Mhm.
Ephraim is called a half tribe. But when we looked at a map and we looked at what was describing, Manasseh gets land on both sides of the Jordan. Half
Yep.
of it on one side, half of it on the other. And no mention is ever made about why the tribe of Manasseh splits in half.
It's funny. I don't know why I thought the half tribe of Manasseh was referring to like being half Israelite, like make it a genealogy thing.
Well, you could have said that about Judah. Half of Judah's kids' blood
Right.
was Canaanite.
Right. But for some reason in my mind, I thought, okay, they're half Egyptian. They have an Egyptian mother, so they're a half tribe of Manasseh and half tribe of Ephraim. But it turns out that's totally wrong. I just totally made that up in my head. And then
Well, it's the usual explanation I ever heard for the half tribe.
and the theory about Joseph splitting his inheritance over his two sons makes sense, more sense. Half tribe of Ephraim, half tribe of Manasseh. But it turns out those are both wrong. It's because the Jordan River splits. The one half of Manasseh is in the Promised Land and one half of Manasseh is outside the Promised Land.
And Ephraim, when we looked it up, Ephraim is referred to, everywhere it's referred to, as the tribe of Ephraim.
Just
it's
the
a
tribe.
full-fledged tribe, just like Jacob said. Ephraim and Manasseh will inherit from me just like Judah and Simeon will.
Yep. But Simeon had their own land, right?
Well, yeah, but what
And Judah did.
Jacob meant was he couldn't give Joseph the double portion of an eldest son because Joseph wasn't his eldest son, and he wasn't even in the lineup to be the eldest son like Judah was when after Jacob disqualified. So the way Jacob got around that was he took Joseph's two sons and blessed them equally like sons of his own. So he, in essence, gave Joseph a double portion.
Right. But he gave the blessing of the firstborn to Ephraim and the blessing of the secondborn to Manasseh, even though Manasseh is older.
Right. But in essence, what ends up happening is Manasseh must have been huge.
Oh, yeah.
Because when we looked at a map of how much territory Manasseh ends up getting, it is bigger than anybody else's territory.
It covers a huge area of land.
Manasseh's called a half tribe, but it's bigger than all the other tribes. And Ephraim's called a full-fledged tribe, and it's kind
Yeah.
of in the middle.
And Benjamin's tiny.
Benjamin hardly got anything.
Benjamin's a little tiny strip of land. So I'm assuming those maps are correct. I don't know. I mean, we're kind of just trusting whoever created the map as being correct.
But either way, Manasseh gets land on both
But
sides of the Jordan.
If you read the text very clearly, it does say that Gad and Reuben and half tribe of Manasseh, and then on the other side, the other half of Manasseh is inside the Promised Land. So that solved a great mystery for me. I finally understand what the half tribe of, and this might be silly. There might be people listening to this. They're saying, you're just now figuring this out?
Oh, well. It's
Oh,
the
well.
first time I've ever realized it, too.
Well, now we know.
Well, I actually bet Ben a quarter that the Bible does call Ephraim the half tribe. Turns out, only if you use one specific Bible version. Every single other Bible version always refers to the tribe of Ephraim and the half tribe of Manasseh.
Well, I was very confident I would win that quarter because it always bothered me that it never refers to Ephraim as a half tribe.
But the secret is all the quarters belong to Ben to begin with, so I didn't really lose anything.
It wasn't much of a bet. We didn't even exchange a quarter.
There's
Because
not
what's the
much
point?
It was more just, I was very confident, and boy, I was wrong. You were absolutely right.
I was only right because I knew I was right. And I was like, oh, Lauren, why are you so confident in your wrong assertion? But then I was shocked when you looked it up and it said half tribe of Manasseh and
Well, we
Ephraim.
did solve the mystery of why I might think that.
Yes, it makes total sense. Makes total sense.
But anyway.
Anyway, that's a very short mentioning of the Torah portion. A very
This Torah
long
portion
Torah
was
portion.
6 chapters long.
6
and
chapters.
You could talk for it, as Ben pointed out, for days and days.
All the stations, vows. I mean, what else?
I lost track.
All the allotments for all the tribes.
All the allotments for the tribes.
It's long.
The record of the war between
Midian. Yep.
You know,
The
it's
Midianites.
interesting, one more thing. The people of Israel wipe out Midian.
They do.
They just wipe it completely out. And those are the people that...
But the Midianites still attack them later in their history, don't they? I mean, they're not totally wiped out.
Did they?
Yeah.
Is that the tribe that attacks them in Judges when Jephthah was the judge?
Yep. So the
Midianite?
Midianites are not completely gone.
Moses did tremendous damage to the Midianites, though, and the thing to remember is that Moses had taken shelter among the Midianites for the 40 years in the wilderness. This had to have been a difficult thing for him.
His father-in-law, Jethro.
His wife.
His wife.
Sons.
And his sons. They're half Midianite.
This must have been very difficult, and he killed, the people of Israel killed a bunch of their kings. They wiped out all their people, and then they came back with the captives, the women and the children, and then, according to Moses' command from God, they killed all the married women and all the boys, even the baby boys, all the boys. So they only kept the young women and girls.
But you know that the young women and girls integrated into the Israelite society.
They did, but Ben, you realize the commandment was, when they said all the women who've been with a man and all the baby boys, you were killing mothers and babies.
Pretty much, yeah.
Little 2-year-olds, you're killing Daniel.
Yeah, it's rough. And I don't know.
It was brutal.
And the text never really explains what the Midianites were doing that was so egregious.
We get hints of it later in the New Testament.
I mean, it mentions Balaam.
What happened, what the legend that's passed down is that the advice was, if the Midianites want to conquer the Israelites, use their women to draw the young men into the worship of the other gods, and that will destroy them. That was Balaam's advice to Balak, and that's why Balaam is mentioned as being killed.
Yeah.
I think it may be Peter. We'd have to look it up.
Peter?
I think it's Peter who talks about what happened.
Hmm.
And he's repeating what, obviously, the story has been told. But Moses' comment is, you let the women live. They're the ones that put us in the position of having to do this in the first place. So it was a pretty awful thing that needed to be done.
And what's strange is that the Midianites appear to know the name of God and worship the God of the Israelites.
They are descendants of Abraham by his second wife, Keturah. They are Abrahamites.
So they must have had a polytheistic kind of setup where they worshipped God, but they also worshipped their own deities. And who knows if they worshipped other deities higher than God.
Well, something was going on because God brought a plague on them, on the people of Israel, for going to the feasts with the women. And you got the whole incident with Pinchas killing the son of the leader of Judah and his brand new bride, Cosby.
And this is right about the time the second generation finally repents for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's finally turning everything around. And they have some hiccups for sure. And that plague was some massive casualties.
Yeah, the plague.
In fact, I think that plague was the largest casualty event in the entire Bible.
So the whole tangling of Israel with Midian did not go well for anybody. It didn't go well for the Israelites, and Midian certainly didn't do well. But
yeah.
It must have been, in some ways, heartbreaking to Moses.
Oh, yeah.
On one hand, he's got his people he's led around for 40 years. On the other side, the people who took him in.
So the Midianites were worshiping God and basically went astray, similar to how Israel was worshiping God and went astray.
To worship the gods of the land.
Yep. Just enormous amounts of destruction from these false gods. And people will blame, the true God for all this, but really no. The true God is worthy of the praise. He's worthy of the honor, and the glory.
As brutal as the whole thing seemed, God had all those people in his hand the whole time.
Absolutely. And he also knows their entire story, too, from start to finish.
This is one of those instances where you look at what happened and you say, I know that God is good. He does not do things that are not good. As bad as this looks to me, picturing what this must have been like.
Yeah.
God knows what he is doing.
Yes, he does. And this was one incident among many incidences in this Torah portion. Maybe that's why they lump it together with a whole bunch of other incidences.
I'm not sure why it was 6 chapters long.
6 chapters is
a marathon.
It's, yeah. Even the audio commentary that reads it very fast, it takes them 30 minutes to read the whole.
Yeah, typically a Torah portion, the audio would be about 15.
20 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's still, Ben and Lauren's show is still longer than that Torah portion. It was 15 minutes the first part and about 30 minutes for this part. So that is our cue to say, good night. If you're still with us.
We didn't even talk about half of what we did the past 3 weeks.
Well, 3 weeks.
We have been very busy.
So say good night, Lauren.
Good night, Lauren. Good night, Ben.
Good night.